Welcome to another presentation of Sri Visvanatha Cakravarti Ṭhakura's Sri Madhurya Kadambini, the Monsoon Clouds of Sweetness. We're entering now into the fifth shower of nectar, realization of transcendental taste. Introduction of Ruci Bhakti. The awakening and symptoms of Ruci, and Ruci as the factor that awakens asakti. After the stage of Nistha, the devotee, by carrying in his heart the golden medallion of Bhakti, which has been burnished by the fire of steadfast practice, and which bears its own unique splendor, experiences the awakening of Ruci, pure spiritual taste, in Bhakti. At that time, the distinctive delight the sadhaka feels in performing one particular limb of Bhakti over another is called Ruci. When Ruci is awakened, a person does not experience even the slightest trace of fatigue in his repeated performance of hearing, chanting, and other limbs, angas of devotion, as he did at the previous stages. This Ruci quickly makes the devotee addicted to his practice of the angas of bhakti. In other words, Ruci leads to the awakening of intense attachment, asakti, to such practice. For example, a Brahmana boy, by regularly studying the scriptures, gradually gains a proper understanding of their meaning. As a result, a relish for such study awakens in his heart. His delight is such that his study does not cause him the slightest fatigue. Rather, it serves only to intensify his attachment to Scripture. Additional commentary in relation to the awakening and symptoms of Ruci. A golden gem on a person's chest gives the chest a golden hue and causes it to appear magnificent. In a similar way, the heart of a devotee carrying the radiant medallion of bhakti becomes effulgent. The devotee may progressively develop a greater fondness for chanting than for hearing, or a still greater fondness for remembering than for chanting. The distinct relish one obtains from transcendental perception of the forms, qualities, pastimes, etc. of Sri Krishna and his associates is called Ruci. In his commentary on Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Jiva Goswami has written, Ruci is understood to mean a desire, but one that is guided by one's intelligence. In other words, it refers to a longing or thirst for Sri Krishna. If this thirst is imbued with a favorable disposition, it is the very life force of bhakti. Along with the awakening of such thirst for Krishna, a longing to serve him with affection and warmth also arises. It is for this reason that Srila Jiva Goswami has written that desire, abhilas, is of three types: a deep yearning to do what is favorable for Sri Krishna, anukuya, abhilas; a deep yearning to serve him with intimacy, suarja abhilas; and a deep yearning to attain him, prapti abhilas. When the desire to please Sri Krishna by serving him with genuine affection arises, the desire to attain him and to serve him with intimacy also appear in the heart automatically. At the state of Ruci, these desires are impelled by the intelligence, and at the stage of asakti, they are spontaneous. Ruci pertains to one's performance of bhajan of Sri Krishna. The sadhaka's relish of the distinctive speciality of each aspect of bhakti in relation to Sri Hari's form, qualities, and pastimes is called Ruci. When Ruci awakens, one does not experience even the slightest sense of fatigue to continue hearing and chanting, unlike at the previous stages. This ruci causes a deep attachment, a sakti, to hearing, chanting, and so forth, to manifest in the heart of the devotee. Subsequently, any time spent in activities that are unrelated to Bhagavan seems exceedingly worthless. For the stage of ruci, one is not able to fully relish topics about Sri Krishna, but at the stage of ruci, such topics are extremely delectable, and Madhurya, a delightful sweetness, is realized. In his commentary on Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Srila Jiva Goswami has written, at the stage of ruci, the seed of sinful activity is completely destroyed and one begins to experience the sweetness of bhajan. In the same commentary, he has also explained, to relish the forms, qualities, and pastimes of Sri Krishna exclusively is to realize his delightful sweetness. When ruci for Hari Katha is awakened, a person never feels satiated by hearing and speaking about the attributes of Sri Krishna. In Srimad Bhagavatam, it is said, the sages headed by Sri Sanika Rishi said, O Suta Goswami, even though we have repeatedly heard about the valorous pastimes of Sri Hari, who is glorified by exalted prayers, we are not satiated. To hear the pastimes of Sri Hari spoken by Rasika devotees is supremely relishable at every moment. Also from the Bhagavatam, the occupational activities a man performs according to his own social position are nothing but useless labor if they do not initiate an attraction for hearing Hari Katha. In his Krama Sandarbha commentary on the above verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Jiva Goswami has determined that taste in bhajan awakens with taste for Hari Katha. He has written, indeed, in every way, taste for Hari Katha is the first and also the highest step. Srila Visvanatha Cakravarti Ṭhakura continues, Bhakti destroys ignorance and awakens a taste for bhakti. The actual conclusion can be understood as follows. For the tongue afflicted by jaundice, the mere taste of natural rock candy is unpleasant. Nonetheless, according to the opinion of the wise, such rock candy is actually the cure for jaundice. By regularly taking rock candy, one can gradually perceive its sweetness, and a taste for it develops. In the same way, by continuously engaging in bhakti characterized by shravanam, kirtan, etc., the heart of the living entity polluted by nescience, avidya, and so forth becomes cleansed of these defects, and ruci for bhakti is awakened. Some additional commentary here. Ayurvedic doctors tell us that rock candy is the most effective medicine for jaundice, that one who takes it regularly will be cured, and that to the degree that one is cured, one will gradually appreciate its sweetness. Similarly, although a person whose mind is afflicted by the contamination of ignorance, avidya, false identification, asmita, material attachment, raga, aversion, dvesha, and absorption in worldly objects, abhinivesha, may hear and extol the names, forms, qualities, and pastimes of Sri Hari, which are superlatively sweet by nature, he does not relish that sweetness. Exalted and enlightened personalities declare this Shravanam and Kirtana of the names, forms, qualities, and pastimes of Sri Hari to be the sole elixir for destroying the disease of ignorance and other such impurities of the heart. This is how the sadhaka's taste is awakened in Shravana, Kirtana, and so forth. Bhagavan Sri Krishna instructs Uddhava. Exalted and enlightened personalities declare this Shravana and Kirtana of the names, forms, qualities, and pastimes of Sri Hari to be the sole elixir for destroying the disease of ignorance and other such impurities of the heart. This is how the sadhaka's taste is awakened in Shravana, Kirtana, and so forth. Vishwanath continues, taste dependent on external excellence in relation to Bhagavan, and taste not dependent on such external excellence. Ruci is of two types. Ruci that is dependent on external excellence in relation to Bhagavan, Vastu, Vasistya, Apexini, and Ruci that is not dependent on external excellence in relation to Bhagavan, Vastu, Vasistya, Anupexini. Here Vastu refers to the names, forms, qualities, and pastimes of Sri Bhagavan, and Vasistya refers to their external excellence. For example, one may anticipate a pleasing and sweet melody in kirtan. One may be eager to hear a description of the transcendental characteristics and pastimes of Bhagavan that is expressed in appropriate ornate language, voice, tone, and so forth. Or one may expect, in accordance with one's cherished standard, that the service and worship of Bhagavan is performed appropriately and to perfection in terms of place, time, person, purity, ingredients, etc. The ruci that develops in one who is dependent on these external excellences is called Vastu, Vasistya, Apexini, Ruci. This is likened to a person who sits down to take a meal and asks what kind of dishes have been prepared. How tasteful are they? Such inquiries would be symptomatic of a mild appetite only. Vastu, Vasistya, Apexini Ruci is something like that. If one's mind is contaminated by the slightest trace of impurity, then one's taste for kirtan and other limbs of bhakti will depend upon the above-mentioned external excellences. We should know that this type of ruci reveals that one's mind is still enveloped in a layer of contamination. The second type of ruci, Vastu, Vasistya, Anupexini, taste that is not dependent on external excellence in relation to Bhagavan, is extremely powerful from the moment one engages in Shravana and Kirtana of Sri Bhagavan's names, forms, and so forth. And if excellence in relation to Sri Bhagavan's names, forms, and so forth happens to be present, for example, when a kirtan is performed with melody, meter, musical flourishes, etc., then this ruci ripens even more, and one becomes filled with immense delight. It is to be understood that not even the slightest scent of any defect remains in the heart of one in whom this type of ruci has awakened. The despondency and bliss of a person in whom ruci has awoken. Vishwanath continues, O my friend, O mine, having abandoned the nectar of the name of Sri Krishna, why are you becoming absorbed in talk of acquiring and maintaining that which is difficult to attain? What should I say to you? Fee on me indeed. By the mercy of the lotus feet of Sri Guru, a most sinful person like me attains something as great as devotion to the Supreme Lord, Bhagavad Bhakti. Not understanding its value, I have forgotten about it, just as one may forget about a precious jewel bound within the hem of one's cloth. In this way I wander here and there, in the hope of attaining false, insignificant happiness, just as one searches in all four directions for a chipped cowrie, a shell used as money. I have abandoned the practice of Bhagavad Bhakti and wasted my entire life, wandering throughout the ocean of worldly sense gratification. By not accepting and engaging in any of the activities of bhakti, I have exposed my complete powerlessness. Alas, alas, my tongue also, like me, is wicked by nature. To this day it licks up bitter gossip, which is full of falsity, as if it were nectar. But it is lazy to taste the ambrosial names, forms, qualities, and pastimes of Sri Bhagavan. Alas, alas, sleepiness overwhelms me as soon as I sit to hear Hari Katha. But if material gossip starts, then my sleepiness vanishes, and I am all ears, eager to imbibe it with complete attentiveness. In this way, time and again, I have disgraced the assembly of saintly persons. Even in old age, what bad activity have I not endeavored to perform merely to fill my ever dissatisfied belly? I do not know in which hell I am destined to suffer the results of these wicked acts, nor for how long. The swan-like devotee, gripped by this state of lamentation while living on this earth, repeatedly relishes and offers obeisances to the nectareous characteristics of Sri Bhagavan. Such characteristics are the essence of the fruit of the wish-fulfilling vine of the great Upanishads, which hold the most confidential of all topics. Leaving aside all mundane talk, such a devotee first sits in an assembly of sadhus, then resides near those sadhus, and finally enters their friendship. Sometimes he takes refuge in Bhagavan's holy abode, where he performs steadfast, immaculate service to him. He completely gives his mind to that service and eventually attains full absorption in it. To the ignorant he appears to be scattered-brained, but the female dancer named Ruci personally begins to give him lessons on the rapturous dance of bhajan, as if taking him by both hands. Consequently, that devotee is seized by an unprecedented joy. In due course, when the two teachers of dance, Bhava and Prem, make him dance, who can know in which realm of bliss he will reside? Some commentary here. A sadhaka in whom Ruci has awakened manifests bodily, vocal, and mental anubhavs, expressions of the spiritual emotions of the heart. Here, Srila Visvanatha Cakravarti Ṭhakura describes the behavior of such a sadhaka so that we can easily understand it. A person whose heart has blossomed with Ruci is called a jata Ruci sadhaka. Such a sadhaka converses with his companion, the mind, as Viswanath has described here. To the degree that Ruci for Krishna's names, forms, qualities, and pastimes has awakened in the sadhaka, he develops a corresponding distaste for that which is unrelated to Krishna, such as a disdain for material objects and topics. Upon noting the earnestness of his beloved friend, his mind, to amass material objects, the Jata Ruci sadhaka feels much sadness. Indeed, the nature of bhakti is such that when she even slightly manifests her splendor within the sadhaka regards himself as most unqualified and degraded, and he begins to condemn himself. It is solely this distress, characterized by the feeling that he has no bhakti, that gradually elevates him to the higher stages of sadhana. In a state of callousness to the material world, the swan-like devotee relishes the nectarian characteristics of Sri Hari. These characteristics are the very essence of the fruit born of the wish-fulfilling Srimad Bhagavatam, and they emanate from the lotus lips of exalted, saintly personalities inhabiting this earth. The sadhaka now leaves aside all mundane talk and exclusively resides in the society of sadhus. Sometimes he enters the temple of Bhagavan and becomes absorbed in performing loving service to him. In this way, all the limbs of bhakti, such as hearing, chanting, and worshipping, become supremely relishable for the Jata Ruci sadhaka. The sequence in which Vastu, Vasistya, Anupeksini Ruci is awakened and comes to its fully ripened stage has thus been described. This Ruci matures and grows, and at the appropriate time culminates in bhava and prem. Thus ends the fifth shower of nectar, realization of transcendental taste. Thank you so much for viewing this presentation on Sri Visvanatha Cakravarti Ṭhakura's Sri Madhurya Kadambini. I hope that this has nourished your spiritual understanding. Hare Krishna.